Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Help the Helpers, our first session in July. And Katerina is going to introduce our speaker, and we're so happy to have Dan with us.
We welcome Dan Schachter, who had presented recently at the Vienna conference, and we are here today. So over to you, Dan.
Okay. So hello everybody, and thank you for inviting me. I see many familiar faces and names. So, yes, I think I will start by saying that I did some focusing with myself in preparation for this meeting. And what came was that in a different way than what I usually do, I will do a minimum kind of amount or effort of preparation. I will start talking, and we'll see what comes, what happens. My sense was that at this point, for me, with this whole topic or these topics, this whole field, I need to be more felt sensing than kind of orderly and prepared and planned. So it feels like taking a chance, but we'll see. We'll see. And I invite you to let me know as we go on if there's anything you would like to ask me, to say something or say a bit more about some of the points that will come up from what I'll be saying, from what comes in you. So yeah, we don't have to wait till sharing at the end or whatever for you to do that. So some kind of introduction. I would like to say that, as many of you know, I'm for some time now involved in, let's call it, the crossing between the political and focusing. Each time from a different angle, each time something else comes up. And I did give a presentation on this at the recent conference in Vienna that celebrated 100 years since the birth of Eugene Gendlin. And I also, and I see that some of the people present here were at the conference. So some of you know more and some of you know less about what occurred there. And I want to say something about that already. Since my sense is that something, at least for me, of course, everything I say comes from me and through my lenses. And for me, I do have a sense that something important is happening that is relevant to the whole focusing community. So I'd like to share a bit of that with you. And it's very related to this whole field of the political and focusing. And to say that this field, this area, these topics, it's not one topic. It's a whole field of topics, as we are experiencing also, as if we didn't know, is not an easy field, volatile, I would even say. I had a thought, I think yesterday, that these are treacherous waters. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But within those treacherous waters, there are also treasures. So I think we need to be aware of both, all of that. And this
maybe we can encourage people to just raise a hand mechanically, or and call for a pause if there's anything that strikes people, because the treacherous waters, we can so easily get triggered, and then we want to just hold that as a whole community, that triggeredness, rather than reacting or responding right away.
Yes. And so I will take the opportunity, thank you for that, to again weave in what you just said, and to stress, as we know from many other fields and contexts, but especially in this context, there's so many things here that can be triggering, that will be triggering. Now, in what I am trying to do, I would like not to put just a huge stop sign or something that will say forbidden, whatever might trigger. I think we need to relate to whatever triggers us, not to push it away, not to label it as unwelcome, forbidden, all of that, on the one hand. And on the other hand, to use all the tools and abilities we have to find a way back to pausing, back to presence. So that's part of the very difficult navigation here. Yeah. So it's important that we be aware of that. So please, what Lynn just said, raise a hand as a sign of need for pausing. And so to say very shortly, and then I invite you again to be sensitive. There might be already some triggering happening, as I will be saying in a very few words something about what happened at the conference, which was it's very important to say this first. It was a lovely conference with lots of very, very good and important things happening and connecting, meeting, and very deep and valuable processes. And one thing that happened was that there was one Palestinian woman present, a woman, colleague from, not only from Palestine, but from Gaza. She lived through some of, and again, it's difficult to find the words here, let's say as an understatement, very, very, very difficult things that happened there. The international, many of you are aware of this, of course. The international focusing community was helpful in helping her to come out of Gaza with her family. And so at some point at the conference, she got up on the stage and said something about feeling, and again, I will not quote her exactly. Everything goes through my filters. And some of you who were there, I was not there when this happened. Saying something that is my impression, what I understood about the genocide happening in Gaza, not feeling safe or seen or protected, also at the conference, saying that she felt that she had been attacked by an Israeli woman, participant, and an Israeli woman reacted, and there was like this whole thing erupted. That's the word I would use. There were then attempts of, trying to find ways how to deal with this. There was a gathering, invitation for people to come to a room where there would be listening, focusing. There were several processes that were happening. On the, if I remember correctly, the Saturday, it was announced that she had decided to leave the conference and she went back to where she's now living. Okay. So, yeah, why don't you take a moment and sense into if just from hearing about this, if there's some kind of reaction to this information. Okay, so and you might want to, if you like, to write something down for yourself or to be shared afterwards. And then I want to say, and this has come as something that is important to me. Again, this is me. I don't know. I live in Israel. I am Jewish. I'm very involved in what is happening here in Israel, Palestine, the tragedy, many faces. And so obviously I'm also very involved in what happened in the conference, but I really would like our meeting today, not to become another meeting about Israel, Palestine, or about Israel, Palestine only. This is my wish, for us to relate to this maybe as an instance of something wider. This might touch something in each one of you that maybe relates to your situations in the world, in your societies right now, around conflict and tensions and maybe violence, ... So it's important for me to state that. Now, my interest, and this was the focus of my presentation, my workshop at the conference, and also today, as you saw in the introduction, in the invitation to this meeting, is how to find ways to use focusing while not avoiding the political. That's another way of putting it. Now, one thing that I think is important then, in the spirit of TAE in a way, the TAE invitation, what do you want that word to mean not taking only the regular public usages of words and terms. What do we want politics, or what do we want the political to mean? You know, that could be, I think, a very worthwhile step for each one of us, for each one of you, to really find your words for that. What do you want the political to mean? What I would like to say right now is that for me, it's centrally, the political is centrally about and around power dynamics, the distribution of power, and the distribution, allocation of resources, the access to resources. And so mainly for me, I take this then in two directions, one might say. One is to look at what we do in focusing oriented therapy, in TAE, and to look at how that might be looked at and also understood as a political event, put it that way. You know, from the start, when two people meet, there is also some kind of, we might call it might be to some of you a too strong word, but some kind of power dynamic, more subtle, more on the surface, but I think it is often, maybe always there. I see focusing and TAE as political. For example, just mention this invitation. What do you want that word to mean? That's a political move that attends to you versus the political. When Gendlin directs us into looking up a word in a dictionary and reminding us of the public meaning, but then not to stop there, not to adopt that only, but finding a personal meaning. To me, that's a political move, a freeing and opening move. And so many, if not all, of our focusing and TAE moves. I mean, Gendlin talks about when he developed TAE, he said something about, we've been taught that we don't know how to think. And I want us to regain our abilities to think. So there's that direction, looking at what we are doing as political. And then there's the other direction, and that is to direct our awareness outwards, not only inward to the center of our body and what's happening inside, and me as only a separate me, although in Gendlin there's never such a thing as a separate something. But again, there's the original or basic intention or intentions, and then there is what is happening to us, with us in the real world. I think that some of focusing has become let me put it this way, too self-centered kind of practice. And again, we talked about triggering, but I want to add another word, disagreement, which might be more or less triggering, but let's also put that in. You might disagree with things I say, and that's great. It's more than fine. Of course, we want that. So also be interested in in checking in with yourself. No, I totally disagree, or this doesn't feel totally right. And yeah. And again, another example, as you all know, instructions for how not to follow instructions.
Mhm.
If that isn't political, right? And so the looking outside and looking at what's happening in society and looking at our identifications, our ideas, our views, our opinions on social issues. And again, as I said, not to push that away. Yeah, maybe a short pause here.
Marvin is raising his hand.
Right. Is that a request for pausing, Marvin?
For an intervention, for a question.
Okay, sure.
When you said, thanks, Dan. When you said disagreement, two things came to my mind. The first one, to disagree with a meaning. So I have a meaning and the person have a meaning. We disagree on the meaning. And the second is, let me get back to the first one. The first one is, I disagree because someone says the meaning that I hold is right and the meaning that you are giving is wrong. So there is a disagreement.
Yeah.
The second form is to give the right to the other person to be right or wrong. Meaning that the disagreement is at another level. If it's someone that we value, we will not give the right to the person to be kind of wrong. He's always right. It's always tick. Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, like the last part of what you said, I heard you saying something, I maybe use these words to say it, the I'm right, you're wrong is also a function or related or influenced to, do I like the person or don't I like that person? Okay, right. Yeah, that's a good point to be aware of. And when hearing you say right or wrong, I am right, you are wrong, I am wrong, you are right, what came to my mind is, where is that where Jen Lin says, yes, it's in that every bad feeling is potential energy toward a more right way of being. If you give it space, I think, to move towards its rightness. Now, that term, those words, its rightness, kind of breaks that dichotomy. It's like we have a third category. There is right, there is wrong, and there is its rightness, which I find is a deeper kind of relating to right or wrong. Yeah. Astrid, did you raise your hand?
Yes, I did.
I
was at the Vienna conference, as you very well know, and I find it important to share how I've been speaking to this person a long time in the afternoon before this clash happened. That there was a trigger because the word genocide came as a handle as for the felt sense of this person. And somebody in the room could not contain herself to just let that be the handle for the felt sense. And I don't want to go into right and wrong, but I want to point to something, especially around safety with us focuses, going deeper into meanings as you just described. I had it in a milder form at the time of Corona, where people who liked each other started to really get at each other. Do you get an injection or not? And you shouldn't tamper with your body. And it really, so I felt we need, as focuses with each other, if somebody is working on finding their way with a felt sense, there may come words that trigger something in us. And it is important that we really, 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 really become aware that at that moment we need to make a very large space so that that is explorable for that very person. And I feel strongly that we start with our own community, and it's much harder when you're going out. But I find it very challenging and very, very important, so that we can support each other to explore more deeply what comes when we can really keep something company that may be ugly in us, or something we don't even like, or something in the other person we really are feeling triggered with. We need to protect this space and keep creating it for ourselves together, not only individually. So I really feel I needed just to say that, because that's where it started in Vienna at that moment. And that was very moving for me to hear that. Yeah.
And of course, it didn't start in Vienna.
No, of course not.
Nothing starts. Yeah,
Just
but that
giving the moment where it.
exactly. Yeah, but that started there. You know, everything doesn't start and then something starts in the moment. Yeah, I feel like saying something. I had a reaction to the word you said, explorable, and I like that word, to make something explorable. Yeah, to me that feels like a good word for what we do when we pause sense into, yeah, explorable.
And Charles has had his hand up. Charles.
Charles, yes.
Hi. So I kind of maybe what I'm understanding from what Astrid said and following up on what Marvin said. If I disagree and I'm right and you're wrong, then I'm kind of in the framework where you're my enemy. Whereas if you disagree and I disagree, it could stimulate curiosity about how do we come to see things so differently. Let us try to understand how we each came to our views, and so that it becomes the beginning of a dialogue rather than a, oh, you're wrong, I'm right kind of thing, which usually doesn't lead to anything very productive. So I want to just sort of say that let's have, I like the word exploratory, I like the word curiosity, interest, relating. These are all ways in which we can handle disagreements without you're wrong, I'm right. And let's maybe we even come to fisticuffs about it. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay. Now I'm aware of something in me that I don't know if triggering is the right word, but some kind of reaction. it's something in the direction of, I really want to hold, I do, and I say these things myself, going beyond wrong and right and making everything explorable. And then when you live, especially, I mean, we all know this, I think, when in a very high intensity conflict situation, then I'll speak for myself. Then I feel that to hold everything like that becomes, I'll use some strong words here, and it's also a result of focusing. I realize that what happens to me in some situations like that, in some way, I feel also threatened. It's like if everything is wrong and right, and it's just a matter of perspective, then things that to me feel like life-threatening get at least not heard. Now, that's, of course, it's a reaction. I realize that. When it becomes around survival, it is very difficult to hold this thing of everything has its rightness. And on some level, then that even it doesn't only feel, but my thinking says that is wrong. There are things that are just wrong or right. And when living in a society where things have become so extreme, and again, we here in Israel, Palestine are not the only ones living in such situations. There are many other places in the world of violent conflicts and threats, and the environmental threats, and what you're going through in America, and so many examples. And that one thing that happens in situations and in societies, in extreme situations, is that society has a claim on you to join, let me put it this way, to join the big we. Because if you don't, since everybody is in a situation of survival, and if you don't join the accepted view, you are seen as a danger to the survival. And then if you do belong to, let's say, a minority or hold a minority view, then my experience that what is happening is threatening my existence, then that voice is not a loud voice. So these are maybe some ways of saying something about what happens in more extreme
a loud voice
situations.
or a loud voice or an allowed voice?
Allowed,
Permitted.
not
Permitted.
allowed.
Okay.
Not allowed. Yeah. We each become
yes.
the existential threat to the other.
And Pauline, let's hear from Pauline too.
Okay. Yes, please.
Hi, Katharina. Hi, Dan. I'm kind of not nervous. It's kind of like reacting to the resonance that's been created by the fear you know, and the identity. And you know that you're bringing a lot of that from your own sense of what's important to you, what matters to you. Norway won the world, or won its game last night, and I was with a young guest, a Brazilian guest, and the passion and the roaring from her was just exhilarating. She's not a football fan, but she entered into the passion. And myself, my husband, just absolutely really enjoyed the game through her lens. She wasn't used to cheering. She was so self-conscious at times, and yet she threw herself into it. So, and the tribal war cry from Norway, that is what I want to risk, you know. And that's what, it's either fear-based or love-based, you know. And I was really interested in Astrid saying a little bit more about the conference. If that lady was there's protocols, and if she wasn't able to use her words, that's a breach of protocol. That's, you know, not, well, it's between her and her focusing partner. So I want to lighten the mood and say, there's a group of us here, I don't know how many on the call, but we can create a resonance of peace in this moment, and with our identities. You know, the World Cup is bringing a lot of peace and new words to America. So anyway, nice seeing you, Dan. And I'm a bit nervous because I've said more. Maybe I'm actually booking the system, you know, so I can hear my words leaving me. So thank you.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, and I guess that was part of, I think Pauline does know that I'm originally from Norway.
I do, yes.
Yes. So I knew what she was talking about, although not very involved in football, but this then getting like drawn into, sucked into this tribal sentiment. Yes, it has its beautiful sides. I am not able to be in a huge crowd, like say demonstrations or even watch and things like that, without not also have the fear of the crowd and the crowd sentiment. That is always present there for me. You know, my history, my sentiment, it triggers very often, you know. It really flashes like, you know, a Nazi crowd cheering at a huge rally. It's always there for me. But I can also sense the excitement of that. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Eric, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. So as we're talking, I have a sense that context is really powerful, and layers. So when I'm with clients, I'm usually very unconditional. I like, yes, just yes, yes, yes. And then there's a person who is a teacher and a mentor and a friend. It's a very complex transference for me. And he would say the same about me. And I'm a little bit like an oracle for him because I feel him so deeply that I've advised him in ways that changed his life. So it's very powerful. And this is a person who voted for our current leader. And it's too much for me. I can't, you know, it brings chaos for me. It brings chaos. And my primary tradition celebrates chaos and says that this is where the action is. And there's something about needs and wants that's very deep and prior to that sympathetic nervous system fight or flight thing that you're talking about. Like, I have layers of needs and wants for this friend, teacher, kind of guru. He's just so many things for me. And how do I manage all those layers? You know, I don't, well, I don't want to argue. I really love this person very much. And it's just too hot, too penetrating, too confusing. So I don't have a conclusion there, but the context and the layers and the needs and wants that are under to infantile, you know, attachment.
Yeah. Right. The context, the layers, and you use the word chaos.
Will you say again that word?
Yeah, chaos, right? You mentioned chaos.
Can you spell it? Because I'm not getting it, the word.
Or somebody else say it, maybe it's
Chaos.
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 Yes. Chaos.
We can all say it and then we'll be enacting it.
we can create some chaos here. Yeah.
Well, my primary teacher said we should celebrate chaos because ego has been disrupted.
Okay. Now, I could go into that and stay, I think, a few hours there. Yeah, I think that's yeah. And so one thing I feel like saying right now is, okay, so there is what you just said, we could celebrate chaos. And that's an invitation. We could have that as an idea. And then when chaos happens, it's not so easy, right? And I think, for example, this is a moment, again, if we had a few hours for us to go into a focusing process here around that word and what that stirs up in us, and bring in examples of chaos, examples of experiencing chaos, I think that could be wonderful. Yeah, especially examples. Again, TAE, we work with examples, with lived instances, not with ideas. That's where we can really make things explorable, not as abstractions. And I'm thinking, sensing somehow, is this a point, and you'll help me navigate here, in which where we could go into some kind of focusing process, either in dyads or in the whole groups, or I could tell you a bit about some of the focusing invitations I've formulated to use in this area, the focusing political, or is, if there's anything you would like to ask or ask me to expand upon. Yes, Lynn.
I would love to hear the focusing questions because we're so in need as a community of what you have to offer, Dan. And this is kind of a test for us in a way. Like we've been really studying in Help the Helpers how to make open conversation and how to be able to hold as a whole group the difficulties of threat and of democratic process where everybody's voice is really needed and wanted. So I would love to hear that, and this is such a valuable conversation. I just wanted to add one little strand to our ingredients here. My friend Doris Brothers wrote a book about uncertainty and living with uncertainty, and how when things become overwhelmingly complex, we want to simplify because we can't tolerate the chaos of the complexity, and so we narrow it down to the right and wrong, to the yes and no, to the black and white. And I think this is a time in history when we're, as a species, just absolutely overwhelmed with the task that Jean Genlin said we haven't actually completed yet of learning to relate. We just know fitting in and pouring out. And the complexity of being tested in this way as a species and also as a group. Can we hold the complexity without retreating to right and wrong, yes and no? That doesn't obliterate the rightness of right and the wrongness of wrong. Carl Rogers says that the locus of evaluation has to be in ourselves, even if we believe that it's universal. And some things are universal, but it's the locus of evaluation is in ourselves. So I just wanted to add that complexity strand.
Right. Right.
Wow.
Yes.
And Charles has been
So,
had his hand up for a while.
who?
Do
Ah,
you
right,
still,
Charles.
Charles?
Yeah.
Hi, Dan. I've been actually reflecting a little on because I mentioned earlier about disagreement and being able to be curious and exploratory. And I was struck by your saying that it could, I think, perhaps be taken to a relativistic point of view where there's no right, there's no wrong, everybody's right, or everybody's. I didn't mean that. And I just felt that there should be an openness to exploring together what is right and what is objective. But there was something further, and now I'm losing it. But I'm sorry. I've had something else I wanted to say, but I've lost it. So
Please, if it comes back, let us know.
okay, I will.
And Cassell?
Well, I wanted to accept your invitation to share the focusing invitations.
Ah, okay, yes. Okay, so I will. Okay, I think I will. I'll share with you.
I do remember, Dan, what I wanted to say.
Okay. Yeah.
That the very fact that we think that it's a matter of survival is partly what creates a situation where it is survival. In other words, when we have this era that I'm right and you're wrong, and there's no room for anything else, that itself creates the situation of danger. That's what I, and yeah, okay, enough.
Yeah. Yes, that creates a situation of danger. And this going back and forth, when I hear that again, I feel called to then look at whatever we call it, another side of it. And then there are situations of real threats to existence. Always that. There's, we can play with words here, and each one of us will have different words. There's the real situation, and then there is our reactions and what we create and we add to it, that's the dynamic all the time, right?
Yeah. No disagreement.
What?
There's no disagreement. I don't disagree
Yes,
with you.
exactly. Yeah. Again, I feel this was a beautiful example. My feeling called to add something did not mean disagreeing, right? So there's the back and forth.
It wasn't actually disagreeing. It was adding. Yes.
It wasn't disagreeing. Yeah. Also, I'll let's go through those invitation, and there's something I feel like saying now as an introduction. There will be the introduction I already had, and I want to add something, and through that also say that following the conference, there is an ongoing exchange on WhatsApp between participants of the conference where these issues are being discussed. It's not an easy process at all. I find it very valuable, having a lot of potential, a lot of learning is happening there. The learning goes through chaos and goes through conflicts and goes through disagreements, strong disagreements. Okay, so for example, when someone there said something about we shouldn't go into politics, not exactly, but something in that vein, I wrote a reaction. I feel like reading out some of that here. And then I want to say, I definitely understand your concern. Engaging with what we call politics very often becomes splitting and leads to polarization and fights. So not to ignore those dangers, right? But for me, there's an edge here that I feel called to explore. First of all, because I see when someone says, let's not go into politics, I see that as a political statement in itself. Mm. It means that someone is deciding what is allowed or invited and what is not. Mm. I prefer a question here, not a statement. Could there be a way to engage with what we call the political in a focusing way? And that really is a question. Maybe it's not possible, but let's hold the question. So, yeah, and then I do agree that we should have a preference to share the personal and the experiential, but we also have to find ways to talk about power structures, silencing, oppression. Difficult for sure, even dangerous. But I feel that if we don't challenge ourselves here, we might be denying that these dynamics are at work in everything we say and do or avoid. Okay? Mm. And so I will try to share
But Dan, while you're doing that, I'd just like to respond to Charles, that by you coming back, you demonstrated to me the qualities of being there. It's trusting yourself. You have forgot, you come back. And that's the culture that I associate with focusing. That gives me inspiration. It's like, if I forget, it's like, come back, because you've demonstrated the qualities of this group are, the same as where we want to go. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So, we haven't talked much here about the term, moving beyond patterns. Which I will just mention shortly. I use the title of Gentlin's paper, Thinking Beyond Patterns. And I came to use it as a verb, a move of beyond patterning, for us to engage, find ways with the help of our focusing tools to engage with our patterns and our habits and our words and our ideas, and then to go beyond those patterns. And going beyond doesn't mean that It's not without patterns. We need patterns. We'll always come back to the patterns, but there's a zigzagging here, then focusing, zigzagging between the patterns and then going behind and finding maybe better patterns back and forth. So what I call towards a political moving beyond patterns, and this is also very important. This for me is a work in progress or work in process. And already since the conference, things have been added. I've had some wonderful additions from people and from within myself. So please, I invite you to add to this. And so the points I mention here are, first of all, we need knowledge and awareness of political power structures as patterns that control us on deep levels and that are partly out of our awareness. So that knowledge first. And then a commitment to sense into the experience of the other. There's always another there. And so to sense into the experience of the other, we have this in focusing. This might be from the, in relationship focusing, right? Sense from the point of view of something else or someone else. Here I call it the other, and especially the one I identify as my enemy or my opponent. And then I call this an ethical commitment to sense, experience, and think beyond the known, beyond the familiar, beyond the comfortable. Now this, and we'll see if we'll have the time and opportunity here to do a little bit of, but this needs time. This needs longer focusing processes and sessions, because there are additional stages here. It's not very complex. It's kind of saying the same thing over and over again. You get something, you contact something, you get a handle, but then that is not enough. The first shift is not enough. Then the invitation is to, and what else is there? What is behind that? What might be outside of that, deeper than? Everything that can serve this going further. And then you'll have another shift maybe, and another handle, another pattern. And then you can go further. This is the moving beyond part. And so this thing that I call beyond patterning as a process of more and more detailed experiencing, a recurring return to the edges of what can be experienced and then formulated. So the concept of the edge and beyond the edge here. So very importantly and centrally, when we have this experience that this is it, I can go no further, that's an important moment. As we know, right? You all know, you have this experience, and this becomes especially important in this context. I cannot go any further, or sometimes it is, I sense that there's something here, but I have no idea. Really, and this is like a commitment to stay there, and maybe something will come. So these are the more like general, let's say, guidelines. So before the next step, let's check in if something comes here. Yeah, Marvin.
Thank you. Then I was wondering if the word beyond in that phrase, does it relate to, as in focusing, what is implicit, meaning going beyond to reach that implicit, or does it mean to go further from or through? I don't know.
I would really like for you, if someone has a response to that, what for you, what might beyond be for you?
For me, it depends. Sometimes beyond is as layers going inside the word and inside the layers, through and through and through. But sometimes it's also going beyond, like crossing it and going a bit further.
And I would say all of the above, and since I am a person who moves between languages and cultures, and since I hear your native language probably is not English, to find the word in your native language or in your different languages if you have several. And I was reminded, and Tom adds, not habitual. Wonderful.
The unfamiliar, I would say. The
Unfamiliar. Okay, remind me of that, because there I get something. But I also wanted to say, what was it? Forgot. I was reminded of, and maybe Astrid or somebody else will can add something here. Some of you might know Sigmund Freud's term of unheimlich. There's been some discussion here.
Uncanny is usually us.
Uncanny. Exactly. Uncanny, for those of you who can resonate with that word. Again, we had chaos. It relates. Now, there's been some discussion here about that term, that word in German that Freud used, because it's a wonderfully complex word. Unheimlich. Do you agree with me, Astrid? Yes. Because it has in the middle of it the word heim, which is home. Yeah, Astrid, you're muted, please. You're muted. Astrid, you're muted.
Unmute.
Sorry, unhomely.
Unhomely.
It's unhomely.
Yeah. So it's outside of home. It's what is not home and familiar. But
The problem is that homely can mean ugly in English.
What can mean ugly?
Homely. Person's homely looks, they can have the meaning of ugly.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So the complexity here and the inclusion of, so hearing a word that has in it the word home, it kind of also reminds you that there is such a thing as home. For me, that's kind of part of my reaction to it. So all of that, I think, really relates to and can enrich the beyond and the going beyond. To me, that word or that move also includes the mysterious and the unknown and what always will be unknown.
The unfamiliar.
Unfamiliar, yeah. And again, we have that same thing there, unfamiliar, and within that we have family.
It has an air of unheimlich. Oh, something I have to be afraid of. I don't know what it is. It evokes that feeling in my language, German.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yes, unheimlich. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So I'll share this. So kind of like, then some ideas of how to do some focusing here in this area. So let's say right in this moment, we talked about things that might have triggered you. So something that triggered you, or something that brought something of disagreement. Or if you were reminded of something from your own present situation, something came up, then focus on that, just regular focusing. Now, as we know from focusing, you can go into focusing in this moment and whatever is present and focus on that. I think there is a power of doing something more specific here, like something that triggered you, a feeling, a thought, something that you were reminded of. Since we're here in really wanting to direct our curiosity towards the interaction between us and situations outside of us, wider than us. So then to do some focusing on that, and then to ask some of these questions that have the intention of going further, of going beyond. So what else wants to be heard? What more do I sense that is hard to formulate, right? These edges. Maybe there's something more that is not allowed access in some way. Now, this formulation is important to me because it brings in again a taste of the political and power structures, what is allowed and what is not allowed, what is allowed access into my awareness, how I am the one who does the censoring. And to go to that edge, me as the censor, and see if I can open some of the barriers there. So really engaging with my own barriers, whether we see them as internalized from society or whatever, but we have barriers within ourselves. No, the passport visa checks, you're allowed in, you're not allowed in, the internal ones. Another formulation that I suggest is, I want to free the power of my curiosity. I want to free the power of my curiosity towards this, whatever it is that I am with. And then this, as I said, this general, stay with it, invite more to come. We have this formulation also from the philosophy of the more, the ... Invite the more, over and over again. And as I said, I don't have this here, but I want to remind you from the first slide, then the whole move of sensing from the point of view of the other, and other, especially my adversaries, okay, two things that have already been added in the process. Yes, did I see? Are you here? If so, please. A participant at the workshop then added, she said, I feel like terming something here as crossing into the other. And I heard, and I wasn't sure if she had said that or that was mine, crossing into otherness. And I really love that, whatever that might mean in a certain situation, crossing into otherness, what is kind of beyond the limits of the known. And then there is this additional move, which is what we know as action steps. For me, if we talk about the political, we do also need to attend to what we call action in the world. And so having that as a part of the process and asking questions like, what kind of action might express something central in what has come until now in the process, right? How would I feel if I were to act in this way? And so again, here we have that dance between, let's say, deciding on an action, but then again going into checking in with how would I feel if I were to, not just acting. And the very important, to me, very important question of how would this acting affect people around me? Actions in the world affect the world, affect other people. And so not to bypass that, do something I feel is right, but really having the step of how would that, sensing into how would that affect other people and trying to sense into their experience. And then again, something that was added through something that happened in this WhatsApp group. If these others are people that you can contact, then check with them if what came for you feels right for them. Maybe when you sensed into how this would affect them, maybe that's all your projection. So not always possible, but if it's possible, then check in with some of these people if your sense was more or less correct, and get feedback and then incorporate that into your process. Okay. Yeah, we don't have much time left, but we have another 15 minutes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe even if we have a breakout rooms for 10 minutes, then we can come back and say what came for us in that 10 minutes.
Okay.
So how many people, Dan?
In the breakout rooms?
Yeah. 2 or 3.
Maybe 3, maybe try it.
3. Good. Okay. Thank you.
So someone's taking care of that?
Yes, Jim is going to help us to be in our breakout rooms. Anybody that wants really the whole group or as much of the whole group can stay in the main room if you want to for that 10 minutes. If you would rather be in a larger group. Here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah, so this is a medium-sized group, and maybe we can process whatever came for us so far.
In whatever way you feel is right for you.
I just want to say I'm so grateful for this conversation, or it's not a conversation yet, but it's the seeds of conversation, and we haven't been able to really have conversation about the political situation, but we're circling around it and making room for it, and so I'd love to hear. I'm just going to run and get a drink of water. I'll be right back.
Carry on, please.
What's political? And it occurred to me when we say we don't want to talk about politics, we don't want to talk about things that are difficult. Let's not talk about that. It's just because it's just going to create anger and conflict, and we don't want to deal with anger and conflict. What's the point? That's the whole point, is trying to be with conflict and work through it, or work with it, not just avoid it. If we never talk about things that are difficult and call it politics, we're not going to make any progress.
If I may say,
Yeah, just to
Dan,
say, I will take a step back and let you please do whatever you feel like doing yourself.
I wanted to say, Dan, thank you. Maybe it's tricky because things come to us, various people who have interacted, but it is thanks to what you created and the stretch that you set into things. So it's from there that we move one step or two steps further. I just wanted to underline that and to say thank you for that, Dan. Because I rarely have the opportunity to have a conversation of that nature at that depth.
I want to add the concept from the standpoint of interrelationship focusing, that once you have a conflict, you can have the conflict in yourself, and you have the discomfort of having both sides in yourself, and that's hard to live with. So you might want to exile one of those parts. You might want to decide, no, I'm going to side with this one or side with that one, and then you make it a bad part, and then you're cut off that part of yourself. So you have to welcome the parts within yourself that you disagree with.
Oh.
It seems very true. And if we think of humanity as a self, an organism, that we as a species are very divided about the old way of power over and being strong and being tough and defending yourself, to another way of cooperation and listening. And we're very divided.
Yeah.
And also, we have to deal with people who are unable to let go of their sense of rightness and identity. If we reject such people, then we're doing the same thing they are.
Yeah, I feel like saying there that was an important step for me in this whole process, that started off with, oh, these people, they lose their presence and they react.
Yes.
They
become bad people.
they don't. Where is their focusing? Where is their presence? Yeah. And then, I felt, when I realized what was happening, I also felt, ashamed. Here, this is what I'm doing. I am naming them the bad ones, exactly the way you said. And then I really felt called to write something in the discussion about that. We all also have to live with that, accept that when it happens in us. And it felt like expanding my ability also to hold the loss of presence.
I've been trying to sort of make room in myself for my own collapsing into simplicity and everybody else's, but just recognizing the profound changes in human nature that are required for us to survive. It gives me a kind of compassion for myself and other humans.
There's something
you think
to do with time. Please tell me, Baba.
Oh, I was just thinking to asking Lynn if she thinks it's any different than it's been in the past. What's asked of us. I mean, it seems that
You know,
conflict has been around forever.
oh, yeah, 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 yeah. But I think we've come to some critical point. But it reminds me of living through the 60s and 70s. I mean, it has the same kind of feel of things getting just too hot to handle and bursting out and life wanting to happen, but it's happening in this chaotic, violent way. Yeah.
Mhm. I was going to say there's something to do with time. I tried to formulate it. Like if I made a mistake and I was wrong, and I'm learning from myself by doing, I will correct it myself, and that would be just great. But if I do something wrong and someone else corrects me, then it feels really awkward. Not because of a correction in itself, because I understand the correction, but I still don't know the path to there. I haven't tried it by myself.
Mm.
And until the moment happens that I can operate it by myself and through myself, by my own happening, it still remains something of weird. Even it's correct, but it's weird.
Uncanny, perhaps.
Uncanny. I love that
Mm,
definition. Yes.
Well, that's how Freud's paper is usually translated as uncanny from
yeah.
unheimlich.
Yes. Yes.
But that's a good point that, I mean, change comes from within. That we can't sense the problem and sense the resolution. Nobody can do it for us, but they can kind of point the way, or at least show us where to look.
If we're open to having people point, some people
Yeah.
prefer, you have to point in the wrong direction to get them to point in the right direction.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Oh, excuse me.
Dan, I'm curious about how this is feeling to you to take this big step and try to have this conversation with us, and how do you feel about it, or what is the felt sense of it so far?
Mm. Well, I would say the biggest step for me is the engaging with this field in general. It's a big step, and it goes through. It's a roller coaster. It really is. So I came with some of that tension, apprehension, but as we went on, I feel something much more smooth. Yeah, more smooth. And right away when I say that, my awareness goes to, and I'm sure there are lots of things beyond the smoothness.
Yes, I went there too.
Right. Yeah. It takes time. One needs safe places, and one needs time for these processes. If they're not challenging, they're not this.
So do you think we should bring the people back now? There's 2
Yeah,
minutes
sure.
left.
Yeah.
And we have 49 seconds till they return, whether we want it or not.
In the 49 seconds, it would be great to do a panel about right and wrong and conscience and what that actually is.
And what that actually is.
That's a big question, I think.
When Ram Dass once said, "Do you want to be right or do you want to be free?"
Mm.
And that's always stayed with me.
Yeah.
He said, "You want to be right and you want to be free?"
Or.
Yeah. Do you want to be right or do you want to be related?
Do you want
Was
to be,
another one I heard.
do you want to be
Yeah.
yourself? Or do you want to be with other people?
I'm not sure she said be. I heard if you want to do right. If you want to do. I didn't hear if you want to be right. If you want to do right. It's not the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing.
Mm.
I mean, we don't fight with people about doing right. I mean, we fight with people about I'm right, you're wrong.
So welcome back, everybody. How we have 3 minutes to talk about our breakout rooms. How was it? Anybody want to say anything that you experienced in that 10 minutes?
I was with Neil and Ula, and I just loved the idea that what happened can be stepped forward and people back to focusing, and also learning much more about how to all be together and safe and
Thank you, Mary. Well, I think we have to stop, so we're going to have our poem. And Dorothy, are you going to read it?
Can I just say one sentence as a reaction to what Mary, I think, just said? Another thing that came up in the conference, I should say this very shortly. There was, this term from Gendlin saying when something bad that has happened is revealed, him saying it shouldn't have happened. So there was this, it shouldn't have happened about what happened to Gendlin and his family, having to flee from the Nazis. And then I think there was a learning there that we also have to be with, and there is what is happening now.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that was an important learning for many of us.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and because it's now and it's the moment, I really did want to send love to all of that part of the world, personally, I care an awful lot, so it wasn't said in this call, so I just, sometimes the obvious can be overlooked.
Yeah.
If we have to stop, we're over time, right? We can skip the poem and send it out, or whatever you prefer.
Yeah, skip it.
Yeah, I think
it's so short.
Yes.
So
let's have our poem.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dorothy.
It's from Dan, and it just feels so right. Poem for today. In order for me to write poetry that isn't political, I must listen to the birds. And in order to hear the birds, the warplanes must be silent. By Marwan Makhoul, I don't know, pronounce that right? Who's a Palestinian poet.
Oh, read it one more time, Dorothy. We'll take it in fully.
In order for me to write poetry that isn't political, I must listen to the birds. And in order to hear the birds, the warplanes must be silent.
Beautiful. Okay, see you next week, and thank you so much, Dan. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Lynn.
Bye-bye.
Bye.